Hello, and welcome to another one of my little live streams. Today I will be talking about yesterday specifically because I went to a wargaming event at the Tabletop Milton Keynes. That is hosted at the Crawford Arms pub in Wolverton. Lovely little place run by a guy named Dale. The wargaming is run by a guy named Dale, and he looks after us and makes sure that we get all of the things we need to play our games. Specifically, yesterday we played Konflikt 47, and in our local group, for the first time, we have played at a full 1500 points. So up until now, we've been playing smaller points limits games, 800, 1000, 1250, just to let people gather enough of a collection together, get stuff built and painted, and get it onto the gaming table. But yesterday we had a full 1500 points, and in fact I'm pretty sure this is my first time playing 1500 points at all. So it was a nice kind of step up to the proper size games. And what we'll see today is, in my discussions on the stream today, is the games that I played, kind of my tactical decisions and the kind of rules interactions of Konflikt 47. I love this game, I really do, but it is a glorious mess. It really is. I will mention before we get started, if anyone in chat can tell me how loud my music is music and microphone at appropriate levels, because for the moment, for me, it is a little loud. I will pull that down just a spot. Let me know what that's like. So I will say, I'm a little bit tired, both today and also yesterday when we set up for the first game, and I'll discuss that in a bit more depth when we talk about the first game, because I really made some mistakes because I was tired at that point. That was, oh dear. Well, like I said, we'll get to that. I want to talk about the list first, because there's some interesting stuff going on with a 1500 point list rather than what we've had before. I think I'll give everyone a few more minutes to join in. I mean, I was 13 seconds late, so why not be another 5 minutes, eh? I have been building a lot of models in the meantime. If everyone remembers that I had the sprue sale, I bought some stuff on the sprue sale from Warlord Games. I have built 5 of the 6 models. I have painted none of them yet. I'm probably going to do them in the style I did with some of the other vehicles, where I built and painted as one video. I was doing them as 2 videos, like a build and a paint as 2 separate videos, but I felt that the painting videos ended up being very similar, because I have a particular style. I enjoy the way I paint vehicles. I have a style, and just making the same video on a different vehicle was a bit boring. So I'm going to start getting them painted, and once they're painted, then I'll edit them into a single video with a build and paint. I also have a bit of news. Not big news, just a little bit of news, because later this week, probably on Wednesday, maybe on Thursday, I will be doing another live stream. So usually I'm just doing 1 live stream a week on the Monday, but this week I've got some extra time, so I'll be doing 2. And the thing I'm going to be doing the live stream on, bits of it are over here, bits of it are over there, a lot more bits are in my 3D printer room. It is a very big model. If anyone can guess what it is, well, there are no prizes for it, because it's fairly obvious what it should be. But on Wednesday, hopefully Wednesday, I will be discussing that model. Very big model. It's very silly. And it's also for Konflikt 47. But let's get stuck into today's topic, which is the events that we played yesterday. I played 3 games with 1500 points, and the list is on screen in front of you, and I will go through each element of it. So I have a rifle platoon. Sorry, no. I have an assault platoon in Konflikt 47 with 3 infantry choices, lunge mine, and the officer, and then I have 2 vehicles in the Sasori, Type 7 Sasori and the Shiboru Chiha. So my officer up first, he is a 3-model team in assault frame armor. And I've been going back and forth with some other people about Konflikt 47 and how you should bring your officer. A few years ago, I did a 2nd edition bolt action video. I did a video during 2nd edition bolt action about how the different ways to run an officer, and there's lots of different ways, and none of them are wrong. It's just you need to use your officer for something, and you need to make that choice when you're building a list. And in Konflikt 47, we're having the similar kind of discussion where there is a lot of different things you can do with an officer, but getting the value out of it and how you use them is becoming more of the question. So in this case, I've gone whole hog, doled out to the nines. I think there's 130 points worth of officer here in 3 models. In the assault frame, they get armor 6, so damage value 6, so they are sort of survivable. There are only 3 of them, so they're not that survivable. Given the kind of weapons that appear on the tabletop of Konflikt, they're not damage value 7, they're only 6, so they can be killed by anything, and there's only 3 of them, but the armor gives them at least a little bit of a benefit. Things change when we talk about close combat and their offensive capability, because the assault frame comes with a submachine gun, which is fine, but it gives them tough fighters, and the assault frame armor also gives them deadly too. In total, that's 3 attacks per model, 9 attacks for the officer's squad, and all of them are at +1 pen because of the swords, because of the assault frame. So I think that is very effective, or it potentially might be very effective. And just to add on to that, so that's kind of part of what they're going to be. They're going to be a little assault unit, but on top of that, I've given them the disposable missile launchers. In fact, if I grab come, here we go. Wouldn't let me grab the right thing. I've got a little arrow so I can point at stuff. So this guy here is one of the new assault frame models, so he's representing the unit having the disposable launchers. If you give a squad assault frame, a squad of 5 assault frame, you pay 5 points per model, that's 25 points. If you pay for a full squad, 10 models, that's 50 points. If you give it to the officer, it's only 15. And so if you intend to just lob out 1 rocket at a time for the entire game, giving it to your officer makes a lot of sense. It's cheaper and it's just as effective. You don't get as much of the ability to expend them all. So with an infantry squad, you could say, I'm going to expend all the rockets, you roll d6 and you get that many shots. But it's up to a maximum of the number of models in the squad. So a squad of 5 could still shoot up to 5. A squad of 10 could shoot up to 6 because that's highest you get on the d6. Officer squad of 3, maximum you're going to get is 3. On top of all that, I've also given them a point of guts. However, the guts is not for him. He's going to use that point of guts on another model or another unit that I will mention in a moment. So, first infantry choice is the Ashigaru. I love these models. They're really nice, and they have been they've been doing work in my Konflikt games, particularly in the smaller games. This is a solid kind of run-of-the-mill mid-level unit. It's not dangerous enough to be targeted by everything, but it's also just dangerous enough to actually put out some hurt when it needs to. Running these today as a Shiboru rifle squad and not as a battle frame with Shiboru. Want to get that right. So these are veteran infantry, damage value 5, no armor at all, but they have the Shiboru rifle. Hello Daniel, how are you? As a prospective Empire of Japan player, definitely interested. Yep, that's what I want to discuss here, and my previous videos on the Japanese as well. It is kind of much more difficult to play as the Japanese at the moment because of the layer of what there is in the whole game. It's not impossible to play as them. It is just one of those situations where you have to be thinking things through. So I will be discussing them at length today. So the Shibori Rifle Squad, I like them, and I keep going back and forth between the battle frame and the Rifle Squad with Shiboru, because the rifle's great, does nice little bit of damage whenever you need it, but I just thinking, is it worth the extra 5 points a model to put them in the armor? And I haven't decided. I don't know the answer to that question, because I played a few games with both, and they've both done well, and they've both suffered in different games. And I think it is a case of, if you're using the cheaper Shibori Rifle Squad, you need to keep them in cover much more. Whereas the battle frame, you can be a bit more aggressive, but they are only damage value 6 still. They're not immortal, so they will still go down when hit by something nasty. So this is one of my favourite squads, and I've just finished it actually a couple of days ago. So I was quite happy to bring these along. In fact, the only reason why... No, there's two reasons. One of the reasons why I brought this squad is because I've just finished building it. I played with some of these before, but if I point out this shape at the background that's slightly out of focus, that is a Daughter of the Motherland Shibito. And this one here is a British Automata Shibito. And so now I have, if I add them to the Stahltruppen, Firefly, and the Ashigaru for the Japanese, I've got a Shibito representing each of the 5 nations of Konflikt 47, which I think is funny. And whenever, and just want to talk about the Automata for a second, whenever I thought of, like, what model do I want to get for each of the 5, because I wanted to do this from the beginning. I wanted to have one of each conflict nation for my Shibito. It's like, whenever I thought of the British, it's like, I have to have an automaton. I have to have a rusted out, broken, oil dripping out of him, computing gone haywire, just shambling around, arm twisted off, wires poking out of it. It was just the coolest thing for me. And it was just automatic for me. I just thought that's just how I have to do it. But whenever I show this to anybody, they're like, oh, how can you have a robot zombie? It doesn't make any sense. Everybody. I'm annoyed. I like it. Oliver, hi, how you doing? Looking forward to see the games. Yes, we'll be getting to those shortly. I'm just going through my list at the moment. So my third and most important squad, this is my unit that's doing the real damage, in theory. And this is my assault frames. So these are the ones that I proxied recently. I did a video on these, building these up. And there is 10 of them, and they have absolutely no upgrades whatsoever. This is just 10 assault frames. Now in a 1500 point list, this is like just under 300 points, I think. They're not technically a Death Star, but they are very close to being a Death Star in terms of how I'm using them. Because on the back of the screen, in fact behind my webcam, there's a better shot of this in a moment, that is a Hokai armoured transport. The Hokai armoured transport has a transport capacity of 13. The assault frame squad is 10 models, and my officer is 3 models. If you do the maths, they fit. My intention here is to charge up the Hokai, drop out the assault frames, and use the officer with snap to action and the point of guts that the officer has to get these guys into close combat, preferably on the charge and preferably in my favour wherever possible. And there is a lot of times when I'm going to be looking at the enemy kind of models, what's on the table and where things are positioned, and I'm going to be thinking, where do my assault frames need to go to do the most damage? This is the linchpin of my force today, the keystone, as it were, the most important unit. It's not quite a Death Star, but it is very much an important part of my my plan for today. So finally, we have the best anti-tank weapon. Daniel, if you're still paying attention, this is the best anti-tank weapon that the Empire of Japan has. It is a bolt-action lunge mine. Lunge mines do not have the shape charge special rule. They do have a pen value of 8. So it's the most powerful thing that the Japanese or most nations have in bolt action, and it's still extremely powerful in Konflikt. The other thing that's quite interesting is that when you charge a mech with a lunge mine, now the mech might be able to shoot you on the way in, and you're just one dude with no armor, so there's a good chance they're going to shoot you down. But if you position it right, and I'll point out a few times where I've positioned it wrong and positioned it right during the games yesterday, but if you can position it right and get in the charge, the lunge mine sets off the explosive before the first round of combat, so the mech doesn't get to just stomp on you and kill you. You always get to blow up and do the penetration 8 damage against it. So avoid the shooting, get the charge in, and you have a good chance of blowing up even a heavy mech. And if you can bring several. Oliver, I've just seen your question about the lunge mines, which I've literally just spoken about. Yes. Oh yeah, question answered. So a mech would fight first in the first round of combat, but the lunge mine doesn't fight the first round of combat. They just immediately set off their ability. If this gets errated or if this gets altered at some point, it will cripple the Japanese, because this is our best anti-tank weapon in the game. So looking at the vehicles at the back, I have my Hokai, I've mentioned that already. Armor 7 open tops, tracked transport, so it's not even that quick, but it's just one of the better options for the Japanese. It's either this or a truck, and I wasn't throwing my assault frames round in a soft skin. Then I have the Shiboru Chiha, and then this, which I will definitely be mentioning again throughout the stream, and particularly at the end. This is my Type 7 Sasori. I made a video on this 2 days ago. So if you want to have any information about this particular model, how I kind of assembled it, and what this is not a particularly good picture of it, but in its claws I've got a firefly that's being ripped open, and I've sculpted some guts and blood effect all over it. Really gory model, absolutely lovely. So the idea of these two, both of these are relatively fast. Actually, the Sasori is faster than the Chiha, but they can keep up with the Hokai, because the Chiha and the Hokai are both tracked vehicles. They move at the same speed. Sasori is a little bit faster, but they're gonna keep up with each other. And so just because I'm charging forwards and throwing out the assault frames to do what I hope to be the most amount of damage in this list, they're not going out unsupported. They've got the officer to help them out, and they've got 2 vehicles with the Shiboru cannon to help them out. So the Shiboru cannon, one here and one here, I like it, but it's not great, and it's more expensive than anyone else's options, and it's also the worst of all of the options when it comes to rift cannons. So the way it works is these are light Shiboru cannons, so they get 2 attacks, 2 shots, sorry, at 36-inch range, and they get a pen value of 3. So you can sort of think of it as a heavy autocannon in a way. Not exactly the same, but sort of a heavy autocannon. If you use a rift die and you hit with both of your shots, you get an extra hit. So those 2 hits becomes 3 hits. And against heavy infantry, 3 pen 3 hits is great. Taking out Stole Troop and taking out werewolves, loving that. Against a vehicle, those 3 hits combine into a single penetration 9 hit. So even though that lunge mine's doing that penetration 8, the Shiboru cannon technically can do one better. The problem is you have to hit with both of the shots. So you have to use a rift die, and you have to hit with both of the 2 shots for that to happen. Otherwise you just get 1 pen 3 hit or no hits. And that's a problem, because when you're moving, kind of advancing up the field, you're hitting on 5s, and you want to get a 5+ on 2 separate dice, that's a 1 in 9 chance. And if you shoot that every turn of a game, of a 7-turn game, on average, you might get one, you probably won't. And even at point blank, assuming you're moving, it's a 3+. So you're still not hitting all of the time. And it's just, it would be so good if there was a way to get a reroll to hit, or maybe a third shot and you only you need to hit the 2 of them or something like that. But it's good, I like it, it has interesting rules, but it's just not an anti-tank weapon. And that means that the Japanese don't have a Rift anti-tank weapon. And so the best anti-tank weapon becomes Man with Stick. Man with Stick. Or some Chiha with medium anti-tank guns. If you want to take a Chiha and swap the turret for a bolt action one and take that medium anti-tank gun, that's genuinely a good option in Konflikt 47, and that is the state of the Japanese at the moment. So, that's my list. Does anyone have any questions about the list before we talk about the first game? Daniel says, great colour scheme. Thank you very much. Oliver says, also noticed it's shorter range than most Rift cannon equivalents. I think most of the Rift cannons are 36 or 48 inch range. I know that the railgun has a much longer range, but that's kind of its thing. Whereas most of them are 48. None of them are really long range other than the railgun. So 36 inches is fine. For a vehicle that moves quickly, even a Chiha is on the move all the time. I don't think 36 inches is a detriment. I'm more interested in hitting more often than reaching out and at a longer range. ZZR Rider, do you have to declare using the Rift dice before you shoot? Yes. So the sequence of events would be you issue a fire order or an advance order. If you're on an advance order, you move. You then declare a target. You declare if you're using a Rift die, then you roll to hit. So you do have to use a Rift die before you actually roll to hit. And that's not great, again, because you have to use the Rift die and then you don't get the 2 hits, and it's like, well... in Konflikt 47, particularly for the Japanese, but I've seen some other players do this with other factions, having a lot of Rift units cycling through order dice, cycling through Rift dice is actually really handy. So at the end of every turn, all of your exhausted Rift dice just get, you roll them all once, and if any of them are active or surging, you can give them to whichever unit needs a Rift die. So let's say I've got my this list, just for example, this list here. This is a 4 Rift dice list. The Ashigaru, both of the vehicles, and then the Shibito. So at the end of the turn, if everyone had used all of their Rift die, I could roll all 4. There's a 50-50 chance of having something out of that. So probably 2 of them are going out with a Rift die. But then during the next turn, the 2 exhausted Rift die are going into the bag, and when they come out, you roll them again, and if they're and assign them to a unit, and that means that you've got another chance of getting an active or a surging Rift die. So most of the time, kind of maybe 3/4 of the time ish, you will have a Rift die for any given unit in the next turn. And so what some people are doing, particularly Japanese players, but I've seen others do it as well, is just have a lot of units with Rift dice, especially cheap units like units of 6 Sasori. Well, I've got a unit of 12 here, but 2 units of 6 Sasori. The Shiboru Sniper is a very good option for it, and just have lots of Rift dice in the army, roll them all out, and then when you have them, you just give them to the unit that needs them the most. So 2 or 3 units a turn are gonna get active Rift dice. Not everyone, but the ones you need them to will. Where was that? Ryder says, do you need to declare the Rift dice before we shoot? Luck could do the trick. They need a hero. Yes, actually, a point of luck can is that a re-roll to a particular die? So if you roll 2 shots, hit one, missed one, you could lock on the second one. That's only a once per game thing though. Definitely an option. I'm using guts for something else in this particular list, so my one officer has guts. Oliver says, I think requiring a hero for their primary and not only rift weapon to function is massively unfair to anyone putting an army together. Requiring a hero for their primary. I don't know what you mean by that. Because the Japanese don't have any heroes or characters. If you could clarify that question, I'll come back to it. RZ Riser says, depends on the hero. Gross is essentially a support hero. And, oh yeah, luck is +1 to a die. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so if you got a 4 and a 5 and you need 5s, you could make those 2 hits. Absolutely. Alright, well, that's enough nattering. That is the list as it was. Ah, okay, that's fine. Carry on. Carry on. Chat amongst yourselves. Let's go to the first game. So, through my list. And this is the board of the first game. And when I came to this board, it was early in the morning. I just had a very disappointing breakfast. I hadn't had anything to drink. I needed the toilet. I was stressed. I was tired. I was not in the right frame of mind to play a game. To fail to prepare is to prepare to fail, as it were. I did not start this game very well at all. But let's talk through how we set it up. So just behind this corner here, you can kind of see it, but there is an objective there. There is one objective here on my side of the board, one objective on the opponent's side of the board. My opponent is bringing British. He has some automatons, but his main focus is actually grenadiers with the EM2 and the grenade launchers. Cool squad. I'm not a fan of the model specifically, but really cool rules. And they're not armor 7, so I can actually hurt them. The idea with my list, with the assault frames in the transport and the 2 vehicles supporting, is I should have picked a direction, possibly here, possibly here. This is a bit open, I think, so probably this way would have been better, and thrown everything through here. Or straight up the middle, that would have been fine. But what I actually did was split up. And I kind of deployed stuff around the board in more of a kind of a gunline kind of formation. Not a great idea. So there was a British player. Missed that. Yes. Oh, it's actually James who runs the narrative with me. You can kind of just about see the models there, but I'm not going to squint to have a look at it. Yuli, hi, how you doing? What's up, man? Popping in and out the stream like always, enjoying the breakdown. Yes, we've just got to the first game, and I'm telling everyone about how I set up very, very poorly because I was tired. So my Shibito are over here, just behind this building. They get to forward deploy, and just behind this tree is my lunge mine, who also gets to forward deploy, or infiltrate, rather. And the lunge mine... This is a reasonable position for a lunge mine, but it's not ideal. So some of the things you can do with the lunge mine is be very aggressive or be very like try and trick your opponent. So you can put your lunge mine somewhere over here and they'll put their vehicles over here, right? Because they're scared of that thing because it's penetration 8. I've put it centrally, which is a more aggressive one. Unfortunately, from where he's standing, there's a lot of line of sight over here, and in some of his units can actually come onto the board in that first turn and fire directly on him from an angle where he gets no cover. So it's not a particularly good position. I think the Shibito are actually in a nice position on the flank because it makes it look like I'm going to deploy on an extended front. Which means I could push the advantage in a particular place. The problem is I actually have deployed on an extended front, and that has caused some problems. And here we can see my deployment. So my Ashigaru behind this piece of cover. They're going to move in here, and they're going to have a great line of fire over all 3 of the objectives. Absolutely great. Love that. My Chiha, I don't know why I put it over here. I think I was planning to bringing it through here, but that didn't happen, and it just ended up tied up with some pointless units that just didn't matter. And rather than putting my Sasori and my Chiha together, like I thought I was, like I planned to do, my Sasori's all the way over here. And again, this is not a good position. It's not supported by anything other than the Shibito, and that's just not a good pairing. And then the assault frames are all in the transport in the middle, and that's probably my best positioning, because that is super aggressive, and it did psych out my opponent a bit. My opponent was worried about them because he knows how dangerous they've been, because I played him before with a squad of 5 and now I've got a squad of 10. So they're probably in the right position. The Sasori should probably have been here, firing this way. The Chiha maybe could have been here, coming here, kind of going through this way, which is what didn't happen. Or those vehicles could have been reversed. So the Sasori here, because the Sasori is a faster vehicle, I might have been able to get through here more easily than the Chiha did. And then the Chiha can be here, it's a bit slower, so it needs the better lines of fire. And that probably would have been a better way of doing things. But the Ashigaru in the trees, lots of cover, lots of line of sight, really good position. Assault frames in the transport, up front, probably a good position. So here's some of my opponent's deployment. In the trees here is some Mark 1s, Mark 1 automata with heavy machine guns. And then we have a squad of Mark 2s with the autocannons. And given that they're together, it means that they are all hitting on 4s all day long. So they're ignoring first off the line, and they're ignoring movement because of the computational systems. And here is a mistake. This is very much a mistake. So my opponent brought in, right here, you can just see the corner of it, a Guardian Lightwalker, ran it off and tried to shoot at the my lunge mine here, and my lunge mine jumped into the building. As soon as he's in the building, he's got cover. That's great. Problem is, if you're behind the building, there's no line of sight. If you're in the building, everyone can shoot at the building. So this vehicle here can shoot into the bottom floor. This unit here can shoot into the bottom floor. This was a bad move. The lunge mine did not stand a chance. And you'll see in future pictures, the lunge mine actually disappears. Let's rotate that around. There we go. So I moved up my Sasori. So my Sasori started behind this building, charged it around here, got line of sight, only just, got line of sight. Very close, and we're talking about that hitting on 5s every time. If you get within point blank, you can hit on 2s if you're stationary, 3s if you're moving, but this is not within point blank, so it is hitting on 5s, and I hit with one of the 2 shots, which is such a shame. But I think I did a crew stun or something. I put a pin on it, but in return those automatons coming down the field started shooting at the Sasori and started putting pins on it in return. Here's the center of the board. So my opponent had a vaguely similar idea to me. It's not quite the same concept, but he's got 2 fast light vehicles, the 2 Humber armored cars, and a Bedford, so a soft skin truck, filled to the brim with grenadiers. And that's kind of similar to my 2 vehicles and my transport with the assault frames. Not quite the same thing, but it's kind of similar. The very first entry in that is the armored car, and that got taken out by the Ashigaru. I really like the Shiboru rifle for taking out light vehicles and heavy infantry. They are the sweet spot for that. Cheap, just enough firepower to be dangerous, because against a vehicle, if you use a Rift Eye, you double the number of hits, but against a vehicle you combine them. It has +1 pen, so that's 2 pen. So you can potentially get 10 shots of 2 pen against a vehicle if you're using a Rift Eye. And all you need to do is get one of those through to destroy an armored car. And that's what happened here. The problem, unfortunately, is before I managed to take out the armoured car, this armoured car and the other armoured car fired on my transport vehicle. And you can see here, that's 4 pins. So it took a steering compromised, I think it was, or an engine damage, something. And it just reversed in the next turn. So it took some hit, took some fire, took some damage, and it got scared and just reversed away rather than... Even with an officer on board, it reversed. So at this point, I've decided my assault frames just can't handle... They can't sit in there all game because this is going to fail over and over again. I'm going to do a rally on it, but it might not be ready in time, so I need to jump out and I need to get pushing forwards on foot, which is a bit of a disaster. Very well played by my opponent. This is the left flank, and my Chiha fighting I believe it's a Hunter Automata with anti-tank gun. This was a waste of my time. My Chiha shouldn't have been here. My Chiha should have driven through here and joined the center fight and just let this thing do what it wanted to do. The Ashigaru could have shot this down. In fact, the Ashigaru would have killed this pretty much guaranteed. And so this was a misplay on my part, sending the Chiha over here. Here we go, the party van. So the Bedford with 2 squads of grenadiers and an officer in Galahad armor. Party bus, like a clown car, they all come out. Loads and loads and loads of them throwing out here. But because there's 2 squads, so my opponent had a very, very, very sensible idea here. This squad jumped out, fired upon my Ashigaru, put a pin, killed a couple. A pin's probably the most important thing there. Officer pops out. Officer's there. I think the officer came out first. Fired the light machine gun down at my Ashigaru. Another pin, no kills. So 2 pins on the Ashigaru. That means that they have to do something about it. This squad went on ambush. That was a very smart move from my opponent because my assault frames are here. And if I rush out, shoot at them with the submachine guns, and then immediately afterwards charge, maybe in the next turn, I'm going to do loads of damage. But with an ambush order, with a bunch of assault rifles and grenade launchers, and I'm only armor 6 on the assault frames, I'm going to lose quite a few doing that, especially if they wait until I'm within point blank to set off the ambush. So that's dangerous. And that was a point of guts. So the officer's point of guts went to this squad, dice back in the bag, new die, went on ambush. Really good play. My Shibito had turned up here, and this is now me trying to respond to that ambush order. So I've managed to force my transport to move forwards. And I thought I blocked off this, but I couldn't quite get close enough. I probably should have pivoted and actually blocked off that a bit better. But I brought up my Shibito and said to my opponent, would you like to set off your ambush against my Shibito? They're awfully dangerous. They've got tough fighters. They're horribly nasty. Wouldn't you like to set off your ambush against them? And he did. Because at this point, with the transport in the way, he looked at my assault frames and said, if I move 6 inches, well, I'm just going to be stuck behind the transport. I can't get through here. And so my only way out is now through the building. But what I knew is that I can run, and I can end up here, and then I'm not interspersed with this squad. And that's what I ended up doing. But I had to trick my opponent into firing at the Shibito first by making them they're awfully tempting target. Wouldn't you like to put down that mug of tea and have a good shooting at the zombies? Wouldn't you? Jolly good. And that's what they did. Zombies took some fire, exactly what I wanted, and my assault frames were then free to rush out over here, which means they ended the turn in open ground, which is incredibly dangerous. incredibly dangerous. The next turn, I got the first order die. And what I've done over here is I've charged this squad and I've jumped into the building because you get a I'm going to have to read the rulebook. Are you allowed to use a consolidation move to go into a building? That's what I did, and my opponent didn't question it, and now I'm questioning it the next day. So, oh dear. Regardless of what happens of the actual rules, I will have to read that and apologise to my opponent if that is the case. But I charged this unit, wiped them out, moved into the building. You can see I've lost quite a few models here, and I think so my officer has popped out here. Ryder says, yes, I think you can, it's just a move. Okay, I can calm down. I'm not getting banned from the event. So here we see essentially everything of interest on the right flank. So my Shibito started off over here. They've charged off in this direction to join the fight on this side. My Sasori has tried to move forwards to maybe distract the automatons. Although at this point, if I'm using the Sasori as a distraction unit, that's a bit of a waste. But you can also see here, it's got 3 pins. So after that first shot at the Guardian Walker, it did nothing else for the rest of the game. It sat there, it missed all of its shots, or it reversed. I think the Guardian actually had just that 1 pin from the hit. It failed its order test a couple of times. So both mechs were just having massive problems. Just neither of us could get these mechs to work. But with the Automata just slowly moving forwards every turn, yeah, the Sasori was in the wrong position for that. Ryder says we'll have to catch the recording. This is fascinating to watch the thought process. We are 40 minutes in, just in case you do come back to that. But thank you for popping past, and I'll see you around. So the next turn, I got the first order die again, and my assault frames jumps out and did not charge the officer. My opponent was like, oh, you're charging the officer? And I'm like, nope, I'm charging the big squad. Oh, they get to shoot first. They get to shoot you on the way in. Yep, go for it. Absolutely. I'm in a kind of coming out of the cover. That's absolutely fine. But the between shooting and the close combat, I lose loads of models, and I've just got 1 guy left. So the assault frame squad has wiped out 2 full squads of grenadiers, gouged the middle of his army away from him, and now there's only 1 model left in that squad, so they're gone. But that's absolutely fine. They've done their work. That really takes the pressure off of the center, and what it means now is that the only stuff of danger really is the automatons, and I've got the Mark 1 and the Mark 2 automatons slowly appearing onto the battlefield, kind of coming out of that cover, and I've got very little that I can actually deal with them. And so in one way, I'm thinking that, and now we're several turns into the game, I'm thinking of objectives. I'm thinking I've got the back objective, and my officer's got this objective. So long as I can support this and keep this objective, I win the game. Yep, here we go. I tried charging forwards with my Shibito to tie up the automaton. I think this may have been a bit reckless, and a better option here would have been to put them on ambush, to tuck them behind here, kind of so that they can't be shot at directly, and stick them on ambush. Because remember that Japanese on ambush can charge 12 inches. So no guns in this, so a normal ambush into fire order would be useless, but an ambush into a run order for a charge, they can run 12 inches. So they can basically charge anywhere out here. So that's what I should have done, is kept them back and that would have kept the Automata a little bit further back. Shibiso versus Automata in close combat, I think I would have the advantage, but only just. But all I need to do is tie him down and slow up the robots, because I need to keep that center objective to myself. I did have the kind of harebrained idea that maybe this guy could run over and take this objective, but this armored car is still in the game. There's heavy machine guns here, there's autocannons here. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It was a nice idea, but it was never going to happen. And in fact, yes, the armored car drove up and finished him off. For speaking of being finished off, my Sasori got taken out, and you'll notice that the Guardian is no longer on this side of the board, because the Guardian has, from over here, has run around behind this building here, and is now in my backline, which is not great. And the center is also not going great. The heavy automaton, the Mark IIs, have jumped into the building, and given that my officer has to be either here in this courtyard or here in front of the Mark I automata, it was never going well for him. And yeah, that's the same thing from a different angle. My Chiha did win the fight over on this side and finally came over here. I really needed some shots onto the automata, but I got some fire from the armored car and was immobilized. So the Chihas are immobilized at this point, right at the end of the game. And yep, that's that. And that's it. That's the end of the game. So essentially what happens is, with the Guardian Walker shooting up my backline, my officer, the model is still just there in this last photo, but he did get taken out. So my opponent held his back objective, center objective, and I technically still had the back objective because it's a sticky objective, but I had nothing there to defend it. So if the automatons if either any of the infantry or the automatons had walked over there, they would have had 3. But 2-1, it's a loss for me. But a really kind of interesting way that things played out, given that I deployed so badly at the start of that game, the fact that I managed to claw it back as well as I did into having a fighting chance of a win at the end, I think that goes to show that there are options for the Japanese against different opponents, and you do have to play rather well, and you do have to put the right units in the right place. But yeah, my deployment just was too bad to come back from. You can ignore the pinging happening in the background because that is my phone. I assume it is nothing of importance. Probably. So just before we start on the second game, I will have an interlude to shill for myself, because apparently that's something I'm supposed to do. Post comments in the comments section. If you are watching this on a VOD, post a comment down below as well. I have a donation link in the description because I don't have a Patreon or anything like that. I'm nowhere near popular enough for that. Otherwise, watch my videos and share them out. I do like to talk about Konflikt 47. That is vastly what I'm talking about at the moment, but I do talk about other games and painting in general as well. Anyway, yeah, I hate doing that. It's annoying. Let's talk about games. So, second game is on our city fighting board with lots of this lovely MDF terrain. We've actually mixed up the pre-painted stuff with some like foam board terrain, and we also have there we go, this stuff which is just gnarly looking. This is chunks of foam that have been carved up and painted to look like magma rock protrusions out of the ground. It's very disturbing and demonic, and we thought it fit Konflikt 47 quite well. And the metal ball on one of them, that kind of massive ball bearing, we put that in the center of the board to mark the center position as well. But that's just a cool bit of terrain that we had for this particular board. This mission has 4 objectives. They are evenly spaced around the center of the board. So one is 12 inches this way, one is 12 inches this way, one is 12 inches towards me, and the last one 12 inches towards my opponent. These are scored every turn, not only at the end of the game, and I was very surprised by that. So in all of Bolt Action and in all of Konflikt 47, the only games I've ever played with objectives is you fight the mission, and then at the end of the game you count up kind of where your units are and what objectives you've got. But in this one you have to do it at the end of every turn, and that is just such a different way of thinking. And the fact that I realized this in the kind of halfway through turn 1 was a problem, because I did not deploy in the right position at all. In fact, you can see my opponent, who is playing as the Americans, has a unit of Fireflies on that objective, and I did not have any of my units anywhere near objectives at the beginning of the turn. I did manage to get some in the right position, but just not as good as I had hoped. Sorry, not as good as it would have been had I known in advance. So on the left flank, my Ashigaru charged up into this building, and most valuable unit of this game, I think, and we'll kind of discuss if that's true or not later, but the Ashigaru moved into this building and fired upon a Firefly unit that was here. So that's a squad of 6 Fireflies, and with the Rift ability on the Ashigaru, they've got 10 shots and then 12 shots, and any of those shots that hit become 2 hits. So I've got the potential of up to 24 hits, all of them with pen 1. I didn't get quite that many, but the thing is, I only needed 6 to get through, and I got about 8 through, so I wiped out that squad of Fireflies, and that's one of the first things I did in the game. So that's pretty good. And after the first turn, I so wanted to move them onto this objective, because it's just like, that's one movement to get them onto this objective, and I never had the opportunity to do that. So this is on the center right of the board. I charged up my Sasori up close, and my opponent has jumped in some Fireflies. My opponent got incredibly unlucky with his dice rolls for firing on the Sasori. Flamethrower, several rocket attacks, the disposable rockets, lots of stuff coming in. A few hits were made, but nothing with any real damage. And yep, this is on the left flank again with the Ashigaru. My opponent brought in a squad of 4 Paragons. Now, I've never seen anyone run 4 Paragons before. Usually people are running much bigger squads. I wonder if 4 is the minimum size. But at this point, I looked at them and thought, you know, your damage value 5, although I think they are actually damage value 6. At the time, I was thinking they're damage value 5. And I've got a squad of Shibori rifle right there, right in front of you. I can just put them on ambush or give them a fire order, and I'll probably have a good chance of just wiping them out in one go, especially as they're not in cover. And this may have been a bit of a mistake on my opponent's part. If they'd have moved just here, or behind the crates and then moved into the building, they would have been able to see me to shoot at me, or I think you can charge from a building to a building, so that's 12 inches, so you'd be fine there. But leaving them out in the open, maybe not the best plan. And so the Ashigaru did in fact gun them down. So the Ashigaru have a squad of Fireflies and a squad of Paragons to their name. Just great. They didn't get the objective, but they didn't need to. Here's my lunch mine. Man with a stick versus a walker. Who will win in the fight of the ages? So if I go back to the first picture, I just want to show where I deployed the lunge mine. So there's a building here, a ruined section, and I deployed my lunge mine here. Now, because this game used prepared positions, the way we do that is we put the main army goes out first, and then infiltrators go out afterwards, which is, I think, the Paragons infiltrated to behind these crates originally. But with my opponent put the walker here, and I put the lunge mine here, out of line of sight, so that in the first turn, I could wait until the very end, hope that my opponent forgets about him, and he could rush out like he's done here. And then so long as I get the first order die in the next turn, which I did, I get that charge in. And I put him within 6 inches, so the mech didn't even get to fire, which is fantastic. And yeah, the lunge mine goes down as well. So it's a 1-for-1, but it's a little one versus a big one. So a very good trade. And here, for anyone who's seen my video on my Sasori and how it's got a ripped up firefly in its claws, well, it's happening. It's happening. It's only the second game that this model has been involved in, but it is doing what it's modeled as. So from just under the kind of camera view here, let me just throw that back up there. So just below the camera view here is where it's come from, and the Sasori has moved up here, clipped this unit, killed 2 of them, and then has fired over here. Machine guns fired up at the officer, Firefly officer up here. I think it put a pin on him, nothing of value. But then the Shiboru cannon fired on the mech. And I'm on the move, I've got pins, but what I can do is use that rift die, and maybe I'll get a double 6. I'm never getting a double 6. I got a double 6. So I got that double hit in, and I blew up the big walker. Between the Sasori, the lunge mine, and the Ashigaru, I have taken out so much of my opponent's stuff at this point in the first 2 turns of the game. It's been brutally quick, really brutal. And partly I think that is because the Fireflies are only damage value 5, and if you put them out in the open, they get gunned down. And my opponent put them in very aggressive positions so that they could move up. And I managed to get into firing positions on them before they got that chance. If they'd been a bit more defensive about deployment, then it would have taken a lot longer. I might not have gotten firing lines as well, so that might have gone differently. But also, if I hadn't have got into the firing positions as quickly as I did, then the Fireflies could absolutely have done their thing. So I don't think it was a mistake in deployment. I just think it's a case of the way that this particular board is laid out makes it very difficult to actually do that, to do what the Fireflies would want to do. I did bring up my Shibito in the end. Shibito, they did nothing of value, I think. And right at the end of the game, the opponent brought in their 3rd mech. Yes, 3 mechs. A pond skater. I can't remember what that one is called. If anyone knows, it got an autocannon in each arm and 2 heavy machine guns in each arm. I can't remember what it's called. But then also a linebacker. And yeah, so the linebacker's armor 10. And that means that the only weapon I have that can actually kill it is a Shiboru cannon with a double hit. Nothing else in my entire list now, like, because the lunge mine's gone. The rocket launchers here, I've got my officer here with the rocket launchers, but remember that rocket launchers halve their pen value versus a vehicle, so that's only pen 3. So if I got on the rear armor, I'm in the side armor here, but if I got in the rear armor, I could do damage to it. So the only thing I can do now to the linebacker is like hope that I get double hits with the Shiboru cannons. Thankfully, though, at this point, I had wiped out all of his Fireflies and all of his other mechs and his Paragons, and I'd also been sitting on the objectives. Actually, that's a point I should mention. Are they in any of the pictures? They're not. So my transport with the super important squad that I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, that's like going to be the absolute cornerstone, keystone of my whole like plan, sat on an objective this game. So the transport moved up to here, the officer jumped out onto this objective, and the assault frame squad jumped onto this objective in the first turn. And so the assault frames scored loads of points on this objective. They didn't really get anything to charge at because everything else was over here and dying. And then my officer was over here, and so my officer didn't do anything until the linebacker came in. And once the linebacker came in, they expended their rockets, and I rolled a 1 for the number of rockets. Thanks for that. But yeah, I can't kill the linebacker, but there's nothing else that my opponent has that can take objectives, and I've already scored way more points. So I have won this game. And that is important because this is the first time that I have won a game against an opponent who is not also playing Japanese. I've lost against the British, I've lost against the Americans before, I've lost against the Axis hundreds of times, and I haven't played the Soviets yet, so I need to play the Soviets at some point. The Soviets don't have a good selection of models yet. They're coming soon from what I understand, so hopefully I'll be able to play against a Soviet player soon. But with a loss and a win now, let's go into game 3. Put things the right way up. And talk about movable objectives. So this is one that we've played it before in Bolt Action. Oliver says, hell yeah, our game. Absolutely. Absolutely. So this game has 6 objectives, and we place 3 each, and they have to be a certain distance apart, can't be close to the board edge, blah blah blah, various rules on that, doesn't necessarily matter. That's not what I wanted to do. So I put one over here because I wanted to throw the game, not throw the game, but I wanted to throw kind of the other objectives into an uneven stack. Because with 6, you take 3 each, you get a draw. But with 1 over here, no one's going to bother with that. So you have an uneven number, you have an odd number here. And my opponent has 3, but these 2 are in relatively open ground. And there's 2 here on my side that I can fairly easily take. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore this whole side of the board. I'm not going to put anything down here except for my Shibito, which are only going down as a distraction unit. And I'm going to try and Thunder Road, which is what I have not done in both of the games so far. I'm going to send my transport, my Sasori and my Chiha up together, up on the right hand side. And I'm even going to put the Ashigaru up with them. I'm going to actually do what I'm supposed to do with this list. Keep them together, charge forwards in one place, and punch through. I'm gonna take these 2 objectives super easily. I'm gonna fight through that one. I'm gonna get to that one. I'm gonna destroy all of the enemy and get to this one. It's gonna be great. Let's see how that went. So that's the infiltrators deployment. So I've got my Shibito here. We've got, if I move my webcam, there's a unit of Naktalban, the Night Terrors over here, and the tape measure here is just pointing at some Nacht Jaeger, the flying Batmen. So they're pretty dangerous, and from what I hear, they've been buffed recently because they're now damage value 6 rather than damage value 5. So not only are they pretty darn nasty, they're also now a lot tougher than they used to be. Well, my Shibito charges forwards because they haven't been told that the damage value of the Nacht Jaeger has gone up. So they're going to charge the Nacht Jaeger, and we'll see how that goes. Lunch mine. I mentioned at the beginning that I need to talk about lunge mines and how to use them and how not to use them. And I have run lunge mines across open ground many times before. However, you need to make sure that your opponent has more important things to shoot at than your lunge mine. And right here, my opponent has not only nothing else more important to shoot at, my opponent has nothing else at all to shoot at. And so this lunge mine out in open ground, right in front of all the enemy's guns with nothing else for them to shoot at, well, they're going to shoot at him, aren't they? So this was definitely a mistake to put my lunge mine there. I should probably have tucked him behind here and then moved him around to here, because I might be able to reach from there to there in one go, or at least into the building and get a cover save. But leaving them out in open ground, it's definitely a trick that you can use, but you need to make sure that your opponent has other things to shoot at. Oh, actually, yeah, it was an ambush order as well, wasn't it? Yeah, so this squad of Naktalben were on ambush. Yeah. If I'd have judged it right, so they've got the assault rifles or submachine guns? They've got submachine guns, don't they? So if I'd have judged this, worked out where 12 inches was, and I'd have moved around behind it, he would have been fine. But I ran across here and it was 10 inches, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember that. Either way, it was definitely not a good idea to run my lunge mine out when the opponent doesn't have anything better to shoot at. Always expend your enemy's ambushes before you move your lunge mine. So my Shibito are having a great time. So that is a what mech is that? Heuschrecker. That's the werewolves, the Schreckwolfen, and that's the Nachtjäger there, and that is four remaining Shibito zombies left. They were a fun little distraction, but that's all the distraction they were. That's it. That's absolutely all they were. I did tie up some of his most effective close combat units, which is good for me, because it meant I could deal with his other flank much more effectively. However, I didn't actually manage to capitalize on that because the Shibito just went down. Not went down as in down order, they went down as in gone, wiped out. If I'd have been a bit more cagey about them, kind of kited my opponent out here a little bit, got the werewolves or the Nachtjäger over that side of the board, over towards the left, that would have been good. But charging them in, being aggressive as I always like to, yeah, it kind of, they did what they want to, but just not as much as they could have done. On the right flank, however, things were going just delightfully well. My Ashigaru moving into this building fired upon the other Night Terrors squad, because they'd moved to here, which is great cover from the board edge, but not great cover from the side. So I got all of my Ashigaru firing upon them with their Rift ability, doubling the hits and +1 pen each, and wiped out them. Again, the Ashigaru have done fantastic work in all 3 games. The first game, they just held their ground, died slowly, and just wouldn't give up. And in the second game, they wiped out 2 units, and in the third game, they've already wiped out a unit straight away. What's far more funny is, you can just about see the edge of it here. This is my Chi-Ha, drove onto the board, fired at long range with the Shiboru cannon at the Heuschrecker up here, and Oliver, is it this one that I called, or was it the next one? No, I think it was against the Stahltrooper. So I won't mention that until we talk about the Stahltrooper. Yeah, but this is a long-range shot. I'm on the move against a mech with the Shiboru cannon, and I just get lucky and get in that double hit. I think I rolled a 5 and a 6 on this particular one. So I get that pen 9 for combining all the attacks, and I do manage to destroy that mech. So on this side, things are going delightfully well. Destroyed a unit of Very nasty close combat. Didn't call this one. It was a 5 and a 6. Yeah. But I did. So I destroyed a dangerous squad, and I destroyed a mech very, very quickly. And I've got a really good foothold on the side of the board that I want the foothold on. So I've got easy access to these two objectives, and I can fight through forward to get some more. Oh boy, this thing. I hate this thing so much. So Oliver does not have any idea where to put this on the table. Always puts it in the wrong place. Manages to completely annihilate an enemy unit, or kind of one of my units, just wipes them off the board. And then the mech just sits there going, well, what do I do now? Because the only thing it can shoot at is that one unit. Whereas if he started putting that in the middle of the board, he'd have much more to shoot at and would just destroy a unit every turn continuously the whole game. This thing is horrible. The Schwerfeld projector is ridiculously powerful. Ridiculously powerful. It's, if I remember right, it's 2 hits per model under a template. Or you roll to hit twice for every model under a template, and then it's a pen 2 or pen 3 attack on each of those. You're not guaranteed to kill every model, but you're very, very quickly going to chew through a lot of models that way. Yeah. Did that thing kill my Sasori? No, it didn't. It was something else. So here, 3 attacks on overcharge. Yuck. Yeah, it's rubbish. It's too much. So here we have the movable objectives coming into play. Because I've positioned myself just below where the camera is here to come up in this direction to take the 2 objectives here. And everything's going to be great. I'm going to take the objectives. It's going to be fine. However, these objectives can be moved by infantry. And so can my images be moved by infantry. Whoops. So the one that was in the crater, the Stahl Trooper, are dragging over here. And the one that was here, the Nakdalben here, are dragging over this way. And so what this now becomes is my opponent's in a defensive position and I've got to attack through it. And I now have to cross all of the open ground here with all of the other flank, that left flank that I distracted with the Shibito, that are now no longer distracted by the Shibito. They're going to be able to come across and cause havoc. But I have one trick up my sleeve, which is probably not this picture. It is not this picture. That's the... Yeah, okay. This is the right flank. This is what I was just talking about. So I've got my... Sasori's moved up into a very aggressive position, firing on the building here. My Chiha's about to move up as well. Now, my Ashigaru here, I actually was considering one of 2 different things. Either I push them forward and use their weapons on the attack, and they are very effective, but I've kind of killed all of the kind of mid-tier units that my opponent has, and everything else is Schreckwolfen and mechs, and these guys aren't good against Schreckwolfen and mechs. If I get a good volley against a Schreckwolfen, they can probably kill 3 of them, but I've got other options for that. And so what I actually chose to do here was, in a similar thing to my opponent, is grab this objective and move it over here into a really defendable position that my opponent's just not ever going to be able to get a line of sight on. So, and that's basically the rest of the game for my Ashigaru. They've wiped out an enemy squad. That's great. They've grabbed an objective and tucked it away and are sitting on it, which is great. Absolutely what a unit like that should be doing. I love this guy just chilling out in the back of the transport there. I didn't realize how funny that. It's actually funnier when you see my officers just very peacefully sitting on the front. I think this should have been my thumbnail for the live stream today. However, in the background of this picture, you may notice that Panzer IV mech. That Panzer IV mech. with that massive great big gun. And it's got line of sight on my transport with all of my assault frames and my officer on board. And that thing just gets 2 plus 2 pen attacks, plus 3 pen attacks against whatever model is underneath the template, which would be the transport vehicle. And it's an armor 7. It's an open top. It's going to be an easy thing to kill it. All my opponent needs to do is roll double 1. Yeah. That's such a lucky thing for me, is that double 1 coming in, saving me there. My officer, my assault frame, manages to drive all the way through. Shots going off, energy cannons blaring. They drive straight through it, ignoring it all, and get to the middle of the board. And this is where I wanted them to be. So I've dropped them off of the transport. I use a snap to action. Vehicle moves first. Assault squad moves second, and I get as close as I can round this corner. Ignore this model for the moment, and this is the front model in the squad. So long as I've got line of sight on a very nice tasty unit that I want to charge at, that's all I need. So I've got my guys jumping out this assault squad versus, and they're staring down the Shrek Wolfen, but they can't charge out of a transport. The move out of a transport, it can be a run, but it can't be a charge order. However, my officer's right there. My officer has a point of guts. I use my point of guts to put the assault frames order die back in the bag. And given that this is the end of the turn, it's the only die in the bag, it comes straight back out. And now it's a separate order die. It's a separate order. I'm not limited to not charge you out of the transport because I'm not getting out the transport. I've done that. That was my previous order. So this guy here moved as far forward as he could on that getting out the transport so he could see. So long as I got one model in line of sight, as long as I got one model within 12 inches, I can charge. And that's the charge going in. And this, oh man, this is exactly why I brought a squad of 10 assault frames. They get deadly 2. It's 2 attacks instead of 1. They get, they've got submachine guns, so they get an additional attacks. That's 3 attacks each. So a squad of 10 is rolling 30 attacks. 30 attacks. And because of the assault frame, every single one of those attacks is at +1 pen. The Shrek Wolfen are damage value 7, but with the pen, that means I need to roll 6s to kill them. And I just need to get 3. I just need to get 3. So I charge in, and I roll my 30 dice. But I let my opponent roll first. Because we're in open ground, we actually find it simultaneously. So I always let my opponent, even though the attacks are resolved at the same time, it's just practical to let one of you roll, and then the other one rolls, just so you're not confused about who's rolling what. So I let my opponent roll first, and he kills 4 of me. Not great, not terrible. I can deal with that. I've still got 6 guys left, but all 10 of them are still getting their attacks because of the simultaneous fighting. But because I've lost 4, and there's only 3 Shrek Wolfen in the squad, I really do need to kill all 3 of them. I can't... If I kill 2 of them, I lose the combat and I'm destroyed. So I need to kill all 3. But I've got 30 attacks. 30 attacks going in. I need 6s on them. Straight 6s. I don't even need exploding 6s. Just straight 6s. And I only need 3. So I roll a handful of dice. 15 dice. I get 2. 2 6s. And then I roll another handful of dice and I get 1 more. That's not great, but it's enough. It is 3 kills on the Shrek Wolfen. However, the Shrek Wolfen have hard to kill, which does apply in this situation. Hard to kill is a 5+ save, even in close combat. He rolls his 3 kills on these hard to kill rolls, and he saves all 3 of them. All 3 of them saved. My assault frame squad loses combat and is wiped out. for the cost of absolutely nothing. Day ruined. Absolutely ruined. You just needed one of those saves. One of those saves, and you just got all three. Just to rub it in, really. Oh, man. So, that is now me in a terrible position. But I've noticed one thing about the game at this point that I can possibly claw back something. And I'm going back to objectives. And I know Oliver in chat, he was my opponent in this game. He does the same thing. I see it in his face when he's looking at the board. He thinks in a similar way to what I'm about to say. I looked at the board and was like, right, I've been aggressive. I've tried to take out the enemy's units. It hasn't worked. Right, now I need to think of objectives. You win the game on objectives. You don't win the game just by killing the enemy. You get the objectives by killing the enemy, so it's still important. But it's getting the objectives that you need to win. So, one objective here, easily mine. One objective here, I've got no one nearby, so that's not great. There are 3 objectives up here, and so this is going to be the fight for the game. So I've still got my officer here, so I've got maximum potential of 2. So I've got my Ashgaru taking 1 objective, and if I can get my officer on a second, I can get 2. My opponent's got 3 units. Stahltruppen, Naktalben. Is that Naktalben? Yes, it is. And the Shrek Wolfen. So what I really need to do is drive these 2 vehicles up, kill the Stahltruppen, charge the assault frame in to the Stahltruppen as well, and take that objective. If I focus absolutely everything on that, I can force a draw. And my opponent, and I can, like I said, I see him looking at the table, thinking through the similar kind of things. He's looking at his side, and what he wants to do is he wants to now move these objectives even further this way to make it harder and harder for me to do exactly that. And so we play the Benny Hill theme song as we charge around the board. My opponent dragging those objectives back, moving in all of this heavy firepower on me as I'm trying to get through. But if you see, I do manage to get really far forwards. Now, I tried a little bit of a trick. It's a little bit of a gamer's trick. It's a little bit cheesy. But I dropped my transport vehicle here to block line of sight. Now, in bolt action, that would block line of sight from over here to over here. But it doesn't block line of sight in Konflikt because there are so many little rules changes. And this is something that we came back to quite a few times. I love this game, but it's so needlessly finicky with some of the changes from bolt action to Konflikt. But yeah, the fire from these 2 vehicles did take out my Sasori here, and I didn't manage to take out the... wait, no, I'm talking out of order. I'm talking out of order. There's something that happens before then. There's something really important that happens before then. Something absolutely hilarious. So, rewind to the beginning of this activation. My Sasori charges up, gets line of sight on the Stahltruppen. Machine guns can't quite see the Naktalben, and these are a damage value 7, so the machine guns aren't going to help. Going back to the Shiboru cannon, it has 2 shots. If it hits with both shots, it gets a 3rd shot. Those shots are pen 3. So against a squad of Stahltruppen, if I can get a double 5, I get 3 pen 3 hits against the Stahltruppen, which would kill them on 4s. There's a chance, there's a very slim chance, but if I can get a double hit and then push those 3 hits through to kills, I could take out this unit of 3 Stahltruppen. And so I call it. I go for my prettiest dice. I hold them in my hand and I say, these are going to roll double 5s. Confident. Absolute confident, and I roll them, and I know then of course they're not going to roll double. They're obviously not going to roll double 5s, especially when I've just said I'm going to roll double 5s. So I roll double 5s. Exactly what I said I would roll. I roll the double 5. Unfortunately, those 3 hits turns into 2 kills, and I didn't get that 3rd kill through, so I didn't wipe out the Style Trooper. And in return, those mechs over here shot over and blew up the Sasori. Hilarious, absolutely fantastic little moment in the game. Really loved it. I did get my Chiha over here as well, but that was just too little too late. And at the end of the game, which is basically where we are now, 1, 2, and then the Wolves have a 3rd objective over here. That objective that I put in the middle of nowhere, no one went anywhere near. I think, Oliver, I think you knew exactly what I was doing with that, and you were quite happy to play along. I have technically got 2 objectives on my side of the board, but I've only got 1 unit over there that can actually do anything about that. The very end of the game, I did run forwards with my officer into this building, but then my opponent just put the Naktalbun on ambush. And given that there's 1 model left in my officer squad at this point, if I move the officer, the ambush goes off and there is no chance of survival. Because he's using the Schwerfield MP40s on these squads. 2 shots each, pen 1. I get a cover save, but I only need 1 to go through to kill the 1 model. So he was basically stuck. My officer didn't manage to get... oh, yeah. Was it the Style Trooper that Panzerstraked it? Oh no, I moved the Chihar up, and you moved the Naktalbun over here. Panzerfausted, destroyed that, went on ambush. Glaring dagger eyes into the windows of the ruins at my officer sitting there going, just in a zen moment, resting there cross-legged with his sword going, well, there's no way out of this. Yeah, the Naktalbun, that's it. Do you have Panzerfaust on your officer? Because that's something that I quite like doing. I like giving my officer the Panzerfausts, because it's only 15 points rather than 50 points for a squad of 5. So, at the end of this game, this is a loss, and that means that I've lost the first game, won the second game, lost the third game, and I've come just below halfway in the scoreboard, which is actually relatively good. For a Japanese player that usually comes dead last, coming just below the middle is a marked improvement. So some of my tactics have gone down rather well. Some of them haven't, and I've definitely misplayed at certain points. Especially my deployment in the first game. My poor lunge mine in the third game was definitely in the wrong place. And yeah, there's some improvements to be made, but there's also some things that I'm learning that I'm able to achieve with the Japanese. So during the last game, kind of outside of the game, the event organizer was handing around little bits of paper. And what we usually do is we vote for just whoever's the nicest person. Like, for whatever reason that you come up with. Maybe you're helping with rules, maybe they're just playing really well, maybe they're just polite, whatever it is. But this time we actually did something slightly different, and we went for a crafting, hobbying kind of vote. And so everyone voted for whoever their favourite army was, in terms of the painting, in terms of the sculpting and kit bashing, that kind of stuff. And I was convinced that Oliver here in chat, with his bright... I don't have a good picture of it, I'm really sorry. His bright synthwave mechs... Yeah, that's not a great picture. I wish I'd have taken a picture of your army. Yeah. So, synthwave Shrek Wolves, synthwave mechs, they look absolutely fantastic. And then his earlier stuff in the kind of the dark grey with the damaged parts replaced with red, the red primer paint, that's historical and also looks really cool. So I was convinced that this guy was going to win. And it turns out that... Where's that last picture? There we go. So it turns out that there was a drawer, actually. And I started looking around the room, thinking, well, it's obviously the synthwave is won, or is joint winning, and that was actually the case. But who's the other one? And I looked around, it's like, well, okay, these are nicely painted, but not as good as the synthwave. And I saw one of the German players. It actually has a really nicely painted army. It's very kind of comic book battle damage and runes on all the tanks and that kind of stuff. And I was like, it must be that one, because that one's really good. At the end of the day, when the scores were announced, event organizer says, oh yeah, so the winner, it was nearly a draw, but there was a tiebreaker, and the synthwave army came second, didn't win. I was like, okay, so it would be the German player. No, it was me. I won best painted, best crafted, best sculpted, and partly because of this thing. Because everybody loved this thing, and I love this thing as well. This is absolutely my favourite model in all of Konflikt 47, and the fact that it has claws and I was able to have this firefly ripped in half with all the guts everywhere. I really enjoyed building it. I really enjoyed painting it. I'm kind of sad that the video didn't do that well, but that's fine. Because I've won a little bit of an award out of it. Best painted. And in fact, if I head all the way back to the beginning, here is the whole army. So it's not just the Sasori, it's kind of the combination of the grungy kind of muddy colours and red, and then the bright blue here. I love the Ashigaru, I love how they've come out. I love the assault frames and how they've come out. I really like how I did the Chiha with the split camouflage. Actually, this is one of my bot action vehicles, so this just has the base camouflage anyway. But yeah, it was just really nice to win this award off of my army. So I can now officially say that I've got a painting award for the first time in my entire life. Yay! And with that, I'm gonna adjust some cameras. Because there is one last thing that I have to deal with before the end of the stream. I'll tell you what, given that I've got it here, this guy. There you go. I really like how this guy came out. And this guy with his guts everywhere. Yeah, love it. But there was a toll to pay, because in the bottom of this box here I have several of the Sashimono, including the one from my Chiha has broken off, and two of the ones from my assault frames have broken off. So I'm going to go and fix these up whilst we just finish off the stream. So if anyone has any questions about the event, about the missions that I played, about some of the tactics that I used, please ask them now. Because once I've finished this, I will be ending the stream. So I need to work out which one's which. So this one didn't have a flag, so he doesn't need one. So that one's broken to the side, so this will go on here. Yeah, that's a nice fit. Let's grab my super glue. That's one of them. Oliver asks, are you considering splitting your 10-man force of assault frames into smaller squads in future? I've got 18 of them. And I think the play is not to split them up, but just have 2 squads of 10. Maybe 3 squads of 10. So, yeah, 5's not enough. 10 is maybe a bit too much. That is a lot to move around in one go. People often kind of theory craft about veterans in bolt action and how many and like how many models you want in a squad, and it's like, do you want 6 models or 7 or 8, that kind of number. And I think in bolt action there's going to be a similar, I think in Konflikt 47 with the assault frame there's going to be a similar discussion. I've just fixed this one and I've immediately smashed my hand against it and broken it. Well, James, just rewatching to oh, okay. So I assume that James can't hear us because he's in the past. But for when James catches up, hi, how you doing? Just rewatching our matches, I was late. A great many grenadiers died to bring us a close victory. Yeah, so in that game, in one way of looking at it is that my best unit is the assault frames, and I used them up on your grenadiers, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to charge my assault frames into your automata. But the grenadiers coming forwards meant I kind of had to. I was forced into that. And so you sacrificed your grenadiers to force me to sacrifice my assault frames so that your automata could win the game. Really didn't do well. You absolutely played that very well. That first game was played very well. Oliver says, hey James, hope you're doing all right. And James says, 10-man squads of assault frames are terrifying. Yes, they are. Love those things. And like I said, I've got 18 of them. I want more. When these come out in plastic, I'm definitely getting a whole box of them. A whole box of assault frames. Especially if Warlord Games release a exoskeleton suit, exoskeleton box where you can build them as assault frame or battle frame, I probably will just end up buying, like, what do you think? 18 in a box? I'll buy 3 of them. Just the assault frames are just so. The thing is, they're not that good. They're just the best thing we have. James says got fully tabled in one game. Yeah, I think that was your second game, wasn't it? More experimentation. Grenadiers are the only section that fit into the best transport options. QLT and the universal carrier. Yeah, the universal carrier is too small to carry automatons because are the Mark 1 automatons large? One of the, because the only assault unit, like actual close combat unit that the Brits have, is the dogs. Do they fit in a brain carrier or a universal carrier? James says, oh no, I can hear you. Is that, oh no, I can hear you, or oh no, I can hear you? I'm going to assume it's the second. Grenadiers are surprisingly good in close quarters. They fought wolves and took core at this time, and they punched high. Well, actually, in an assault. That's impressive. Because they have no pen value in assault, right? They've got lots and lots of firepower, so at close range shooting, they're really good. Like, lots and lots of small arm shots from the assault rifles, but also then a bunch of grenade launchers and rockets and the Tesla rifle. So, yeah, I think they absolutely could be. I think similarly to the assault frames, rather than taking maxed out squads, splitting those 2 squads into 3 squads that are mid-sized might be a good play. Both the large and rifle sections are 6 minimum. Yeah. Dogs would fit. Yeah. Okay. Oh, dogs would fit in a transport, right? There's obviously a delay in the stream for this discussion. That's not what I wanted to do. I was just trying to flood the join, and I've ended up accidentally flooding the whole model. So I've realised to fix my Chiha, which I do have here, I actually need to go and get my Dremel and drill kit to re-drill that hole, because this hasn't just fallen out, it's actually snapped. So the... Hang on, let me just focus. Yeah, so that's coming from there. And I mean, I could cement that, but that's never going to hold, is it? Is it? That's not going to hold. Let's try it. I'll try it, but this is not going to work. I just don't have my drill stuff up here at the moment, so I'm going to have to grab that. I'll grab that tomorrow and repair this up. Ooh, James says, yes, an assault. Oh, so the Grenadiers killed Trek Wolfens in a close assault. 3 rifle grenades, Tesla gun, and tough fighters on 10 men. Do you get to shoot the grenades in close combat? Ah, Yuli, welcome back. Sorry if this has been covered already. Do you feel like the recent buffs to the Japanese made a difference? I think that the recent buffs to the Japanese are completely irrelevant. None of them have made any benefit whatsoever, and some of them have actually been detrimental. But the detriments are not that big, and they're not in any for anything that I actually would do. They're not our most powerful things, so it's not like a big deal or anything. But yeah, what was the changes that were made? What were the changes that were made? If I can grammar correctly. Oh, great. So I'm trying to look it up, but also it's... I've got... I'm on Frontline Gaming's website at the moment. So this is not actually from Warlord Games. I don't have a link to the to it on the Warlord Games website at the moment. So the Japanese Imperial Shiboru Rifle Squad gains only human. So that is for my Ashigaru, which is technically a buff, but also irrelevant. So what only human means is that usually in Konflikt 47, a medic cannot heal a rift unit, an advanced or a rift unit. And the Shiboru rifles are an advanced unit. So they can't be healed by a medic. But they gain now only human, which means they can be healed by a medic, but that's irrelevant. No one's taking medics. Medics are rubbish, and even if you do take a medic and you put them next to a squad, they might, if you're lucky, heal 2 of them in an entire game. So the way that the medic works is you every time the unit takes a casualty, they lose and lose a model. You roll a d6, and on the roll of a 6, that model doesn't die. So it's kind of like the hard to kill, but it's on a 6. And what that means is that for every 6 models that die, one of them comes back. There's 12 models in the squad. So if they all die, you get 2 of them back. So what? It's every now and again having an extra model. It's like 1 in 100 games that might mean something, but most of the time it's not going to do anything. The battle frame anti-tank team is reduced to 110, so it used to be 130, so it's 20 points cheaper. this is irrelevant. No one's taking it. No one's taking it because it's worth about 50 points, or maybe 80 points at a push, because it's a Panzerschreck team in body armor. That's all it is. And it has shape charge, which means it's no good against walkers. So it's a very limited unit. It's only good against tanks and vehicles that aren't walkers. And it's only got 24-inch range. It's still only damage value 6. It's not immortal. And there's only 2 models in it. So they're going to get... As soon as the enemy targets them, they're gone. And they've got very limited targets for them to shoot at. And it's not particularly powerful. It's only +6 on the shot. Is Panzerschreck +6 or +7? It might be +7. But it's not great no matter what. The next one is the Enargo Medium Battle Walker. The light rocket system is reduced to -40 points. That's good because the Enargo is massively overcosted. But again, this is irrelevant because it's nowhere near enough. So the Heuschrecker is 180 points. The Enargo is 300 points. Taking off the difference between +20 and +40, sorry, -20 and -40, 20 points change isn't enough to make up for that 120 points difference. And the second thing about the Enargo is that no one's taking the light rocket system on the Enargo because the Japanese really, really need anti-tank capability, and so you take the anti-tank gun on the Enargo. If you're taking an Enargo, you put the anti-tank gun on it. And so you're not taking the rocket system, so this is irrelevant. The Type 97 Chiha Shiboru gains the rear-facing turret-mounted machine gun rule. That is a debuff. If you have a machine gun in the rear of your turret, then you can fire it by itself if you need to, or you fire the main gun one way and the machine gun the other way, and that's fine. If you read the rule of the rear-facing machine gun, the actual specific rear-facing machine gun rule, it says that you have to target something with the main gun first and then shoot the machine gun in something in the opposite direction. So that limits your arc of fire, because you're now 45 and 45 rather than 90 degrees. So you get a limited field of fire to actually get that target with the machine gun, but also you actually need to shoot the main gun at something, whereas if it didn't have that rule, you wouldn't need to shoot the main gun. You can just turn the turret around and shoot a machine gun. But it's machine guns, it's small arms, and we're talking about Konflikt 47. That's completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter. This is a debuff technically, but it's also irrelevant. The last one on here is the Type 3 Kai Shiboru Chinu, gains the same rule. And I will not repeat myself because it's exactly the same information. Chinu and the Chiha with the Shiboru cannon, they're identical, except the Chinu has armor 9 for +40 points. So it's actually really nice to have. And I have modified my Chiha. The front hull is slightly enlarged so that I can count this as a Chinu if I need. That's actually holding, but I don't think that's going to be strong enough. I will drill that at some point. Oh wow, Yuli says Panzerschreck is 24 inches pen 5. Why are you paying 110 points for a pen 5 24-inch range weapon with shape charge? So it becomes pen 3. Yeah, it would still be pen 3 against a walker. It's irrelevant. It's an irrelevant unit. If it was 110 points and it had a light Shiboru cannon, now we're talking. But it doesn't. And also, if it had a light Shiboru cannon, it would probably be 200 points because Shiboru cannons are massively over points costed at the moment. So yeah, most of those changes made to the Japanese are completely irrelevant, and the one that actually kind of matters is a debuff. And I think even that one doesn't actually matter that much. Like the best thing there is probably the Enargo coming down by 20 points. And that's just so that you can take a walker slightly cheaper. But it's still 100 points more than it should be. And all of the none of the Shiboro cannons changed their points cost. They're still 80 points just for the gun. Sorry, no, they're 80 points on top of the anti-tank guns cost. So if you look at the Sasori, the Type 6 Sasori, it's 95 points for the base one, 145 points for the one with light anti-tank guns, so that's plus 50 points, and then it's 80 points more than that to then have a Shiboro cannon. So the Shiboro cannon is 130 points. Whereas a Vogelspinner is 145 points and has a machine turret just automatically. But as I've shown today, just because we are kind of in the position that we are in, just because we have a lot of our units being over points costed, doesn't mean we can't put up a good fight. I've shown some tactics today, some ways of thinking about units, some ways of thinking about the board and how to play a game. That means that the Japanese, they're on the back leg, but they're not completely going to lose every game forever. They do have a fighting chance. It's just you have to, like, they're the most difficult one to play at the moment, so you have to really plan out your moves, plan out your tactics, and position well. And I think that's in both the first and the third game I lost because of positioning. Right, in the first game I positioned very poorly at the beginning in deployment, and then I made several mistakes along the way, and while I did claw it back at certain points, I didn't claw it back enough. Whereas if I'd have positioned better, I might have had a better chance. And in the third game, maybe it wasn't positioning that was the problem, but more like just being much more aggressive. If I'd have moved up faster earlier, and I was doing that, but just more of that might have been the way. James says, I believe it's the other way. The Heuschrecker is massively undercosted for the firepower. Yeah, so what's the base Heuschrecker? It's 150 points, isn't it, with a missile launcher and the machine guns? I don't think so. Like, compare that to the Sasori, or I mean, it's actually, yeah, it's got a lot more firepower than a Vogelspinner, but the Vogelspinner's faster. Oh, is it 185 points for the base Heuschrecker? Okay, so that's actually... Okay, so there's less than 100 points difference between them. I thought it was more than 100 points between them. But still, that's a lot. I think the biggest problem with the Inago, it's not necessarily the points cost, because if you run through all of the options, you actually do get to the same value. Sorry, the same number at the end. But the Inago cannot be taken as a regular vehicle. You have to take it as a veteran. Whereas the Heuschrecker, you have the option. And if you take a Heuschrecker as veteran, you have the bonus from the Rift Mastery. Although the Japanese do have a bonus for Rift units. Oh no, it's only Rift units. Yeah, and it can't have a Rift weapon, so it can't be a Rift unit. Yeah, there is absolutely no reason why you would take an Inago as veteran. There is reason to take a Heuschrecker veteran, but never an Inago. So the first thing that needs to happen is the Inago needs to have a regular rating option, because taking it as veteran is pointless. And if you just take the points down to make it regular, it becomes instantly a usable... It becomes much better. It's not like super powered or anything, but just taking the points down, making it regular, makes it much more usable. I think all of the other points costs for it could probably stay the same. I'd like it to come down a little bit more. I like what Warlord is doing in one way, that they're not making massive sweeping changes. They are being a little bit more careful about things. But unfortunately, the changes that they've made to the Japanese so far are irrelevant. Like, no one's taking medics. No one's shooting the machine gun out of the back of a tank turret in Konflikt. It's a medium machine gun. It's a small arm. Anyway, I feel like I'm complaining, and whilst I know the internet loves complaining, I don't. So I'm going to stop complaining. I'm going to pack away my models and take them downstairs and go and find my drill so that I can fix that properly. But for now, I will say, ask some questions now, because I will end the stream in a moment. But just before I do, I have next week on Monday I'll be doing my normal live stream, and it'll probably be a painting live stream. But before then, on probably Wednesday of this week, I will be doing a special live stream, an extra one, on a particular model that is very, very large. And I have part of it over here. Some of you may recognize what this is. Some of you may not. This is a knee joint. This is just the joint of the knee. This is a medium tank. Or a light tank, technically. When this model is done, it's very, very big. And I will be talking about this model on Wednesday on that live stream. Or it might be Thursday, but it depends how things go. I want to try and make it on Wednesday. But yeah, that's the spoiler for the Wednesday stream. And for next week's video, I have not chosen, but I do have a few things in the works. I might end up doing one of the sprues, the tank sprues, because I've got quite a few of them built. I've actually got 5 out of the 6 of them built now, so as long as I paint one of them, I can get a video on that out. But I do have some other options. I've got some Konflikt videos in the way as well. In the way, on the way, in progress. I don't see any more questions in the chat, so I will end the stream. I will say I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and thank you very much to everyone who has popped by and had a chat, and thank you to everyone who's watching this in the VOD. James says, "Stompy mech boy." Thank you for watching.